Welcome to the 4th ASEAN EU Cooperation and Scholarship Day. You are now in the reception area. Here is the list of events we have prepared for you. Click on the schedule button to get a reminder on your phone or devices. Just dropping in to see what's on? Find this little red button to see which event is currently live and just join the fun. Take the time to explore the expo area and see what have been prepared for you. Here on the booth panel, you can have a one-on-one Q&A session with our exhibitors. Download all the information that interests you, join workshops and sessions, or try out the games. Each session also has its own booth panel for you to interact with the speakers. To have a conversation with an expo representative, click Share Video and Audio. The booth moderator will allow you to have a conversation with them. Have something to say? Head on over to the Voice of Youth booth. Pick your virtual background and overlay and say it with a photo or video. Don't forget to follow and tag at EU in ASEAN when you post it on social media. You might be the lucky winner to get a special hamper from the EU. We're so excited to have you here, and we wish you a good time.
Hello. Good afternoon and welcome again to the 4th ASEAN EU Cooperation and Scholarship Day 2021. My name is Ligwina Hananto. You can call me Weena, and I will be your moderator today. We are still at the main stage, and I hope everyone is well. You have had a chance to look around at the expo today. We are still in the pandemic, and of course, this digital expo is very important for you to keep yourself up to date with what's happening around the world. Let me introduce you to our session. In recent years, the economic structure of ASEAN is increasingly dominated by the SMEs, small medium enterprises. This contributes up to 30% of ASEAN national export. 30%, that's a lot of numbers. While the push is to digitize ASEAN SME has been going on, the pandemic has made it a necessity. So it's not becoming generic. You need to be online. You need to be digitalized. In this session, we will be discussing digitalization for SMEs during the pandemic, as well as the new challenges and opportunities it presents. Let me welcome you to the stage, three of my fellow ASEANers. Can I say ASEANers? Here are Lim Guo Hong from Singapore, Ratseta Moniseng from Cambodia, and Bahtiar Bandial from Arise IPR. He's based in Bangkok, but right now he's calling in from Brunei. Hello guys, how are you today? Really hope you are all in good health, in good mood today.
Thank you.
We will have a fabulous conversation today, and I'm sure a lot of people are interested because setting up business, starting from SMEs, is now on everybody's agenda. So with Gohang and Moni first, you both work on SMEs, but on different aspects. Let's start with Gohang first. Gohang, you are helping SMEs in setting up their online presence, right? So what do you see as SMEs' main challenge in making the transition to go digital? What have you seen on the market?
Yes. So basically, Cosiva Lab actually helps SMEs to digitalize their processes and create websites, e-commerce website for them in Singapore. So actually, the main challenges that we see are typically their lack of knowledge. Okay. Second is their mindset, and third is the skill set. So of course, first they need to actually have the knowledge before they dare to try. If they have no knowledge, they say, "Oh, what's this e-commerce thing? What is this digitalization thing?" And if you think about it, the older generation and some of the more careful business owners, they will typically think that, oh, my industry doesn't fit this Go Digital program. My industry doesn't fit all this going online. So that definitely requires a mindset change. And after they actually transited and they go digital, they go online, they will need to actually have the skill set to actually manage this digitalization. So be it whether it's going to be from e-commerce order fulfillment to digital marketplace handling, these are the challenges that I see that they actually faces on a day-to-day basis.
So how wide is the range when you are transforming SMEs into a digitized business? Is it setting up a website? Is it going into digital marketing? In your experience, which one is the one that's need to be more pushed into transformation?
The biggest that we have is basically something that they do not do on a day-to-day basis. So if you talk about going to the digital marketplaces like curator services like Q10, Shopee, this is something that they do as a consumer themselves. So the knowledge is more or less there, just that they don't know how to handle them on a day-to-day basis. So that push and the challenges that they face is not so high. It's actually more of like the barrier to really should I start, should I not start, do I have the knowledge? So those are not that high of a barrier. For us, our focus is mainly on creating the e-commerce website for them. So that's something very new. Now I have something brand.com is my own website. So how do I handle the website? How do I get orders? How do I do marketing? So my business basically focuses on creating them the productivity solution in the business as well as the customer facing e-commerce solution. So basically, how do they actually go online? How do they make money online? And how do they face customer with this new avenue as well? So that's where we are focused on, and that's also one of the huge challenges that the SME owners are facing day to day.
Thank you, Gohong. That sounds like helping people to adapt new way of life, isn't it? It's something that you don't look at as something transformational, but it's really changing the way people do business. Fascinating. Let's go across the region to Moni, who's the founder of Bamnang Creative Project, and you also work with SMEs in developing more specific digital marketing strategy and content. So that's why I was asking Guohong what he's doing on his part of the world. Now Moni is doing on another part of digitization of a business, which is on the digital marketing content. By the way, guys, I run a business which is a financial training and fully online. And I really can resonate with what Guohong is saying. Before that, people need to text on WhatsApp to register to my class, and now everything is on the website. And nowadays, we always have to create like a communication plan on what contents we're going to do for an entire month. So that would be something that Moni can share. How much do the SME in your country understand about digital marketing strategy? Because there's quite a vast amount of material to learn. I had to take up online classes just to understand what my marketing team is doing.
Okay, Rene. So actually in Cambodia, like because of before the COVID situation, people tend to focus more on the traditional marketing rather than the digital marketing. So the issue was that when the COVID pandemic comes, and then people actually face some struggle, especially their sales just drop immediately. So that both of the service industry and the product industry in SME have to find something in order to create their marketing, in order to build their brand, as well as in order to get more sales. So that's the reason why people actually focuses on digital marketing. And as in Cambodia, one of the main platform that mostly people use would be Facebook marketing. And yes, the perspective of people on Facebook marketing has shifted from like a very little businesses in order to be a large one, which is because of the COVID situation. So that for the Facebook marketing, the idea was that they have to focus on like content marketing, influencer marketing, and also they should have some media production, as well as with the content creation, they should mainly have the graphic design and the poster design together with their logo branding as well.
That's right.
And that's how some SME and businesses do in Cambodia.
So when you're talking about digital marketing, it means we need to understand which platform is mostly used by the target audience, right? And for Cambodia case, it's Facebook, for example. Can you give us like an example of what kind of small business that you are helping into putting themselves available on online presence on Facebook?
Yes, so we work on some SME, and mainly we have like bookstore, and we also have other small business like if they are focusing on their restaurant but they couldn't open it due to the pandemic and the lockdown, so that they have to ship it virtually to be online, so that we could help them in order to create their digital marketing or social media marketing, mainly Facebook marketing for their branding as well as for their business, so that they can create more sales through their Facebook page.
Fascinating how we can still interact with each other while staying at home. And of course, for these small businesses, You just have to keep on going to be able to survive the pandemic. All right. It has been a force, isn't it, this pandemic? It forced everybody to shift and adapt to survive. Let's talk about what Bhatia is doing. It's quite very interesting. Despite the challenges with infrastructure, digital penetration, going digital is also a lower barrier to entry for many businesses, lower overhead costs, but there's issue of IPR. We have Bhatia here, who is from Arise IPR, one of EU-funded projects here in ASEAN. Would you agree that IPR becomes more important, especially for businesses in going digital? Bhatia, what's your thought on this? What is IPR in broad terms so people can understand it better?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rina, and thank you as well to the organizers for inviting Arise Plus IPR to speak on what definitely is a very important issue in today's Go Digital session. So intellectual property rights, we see them as of increasing importance as businesses make their digital journey. Businesses that make the digital journey are often substantial creators and consumers of intellectual property, and protection of these rights become ever more important as businesses try to sell their products over an increasingly globalized economy. So as we heard from our other panelists, the internet has made it easier for businesses to promote their goods and services, but it's also therefore made it easier for people to copy designs, imitate products, and use business information. And this is where the importance of protection of IP rights comes in. It's important to know that just because information is displayed in the public domain, this does not mean that it can't be reproduced or replicated without consequence. So as a business wants to thrive in the digital age, it's important to know your IP rights, whether it comes to your trademarks, your designs, your copyright or patent that you're creating. So knowing your rights and how to use them definitely is of utmost importance and as your business goes digital.
Okay, so what are the things that as SMEs need to be aware as they go digital when they enter, especially, for example, regional market? Then that means you need to register your brand, or what are the specific things that we need to be more aware of?
Yeah, so as previously mentioned, SMEs entering the digital market, they need to be aware that putting up their work on the public domain opens them up to replication and piracy. So IP protection should always be applied before any novel ideas, logos, brands, or designs are displayed on the public domain. It's also important to know where your target market is. So you should know that IP protection must be sought in all the countries where you wish to sell. So if you're looking to sell regionally across ASEAN, for example, and your product is something of great novelty, it's definitely a good idea to look into seeking protection over different localities. It's also definitely very important to conduct searches for your products, logos, and ideas in different regions where you wish to set up. So for example, your business name, it may be unique in your country, but if there's a business with a similar name in a different country, you may not be able to sell your product there under that name, especially if you're within the same business category. For this, the project that supported the ASEAN IP offices, this project has supported the ASEAN IP offices to create these search tools that are available for the public to use and all SMEs. So we have ASEAN TM View and ASEAN Design View, which are two search databases which are updated with registration data for IP from each ASEAN member state. And so before you apply for your trademarks, designs, we would advise SMEs to use these tools for their own market research before applying for any protection.
I'm concerned that a lot of SMEs have very little knowledge about IPR, even when we talk about locally, and now they also have to think about it on the regional level. So this is something that everybody needs to start thinking about. Thank you, Bhatia. I'd like to invite Guohong and Moni back to our stage. Let's talk to them and what's their reaction, their comments about IPR. So Guohong and Moni, when you're working with your clients who are SMEs, how aware are they about the property rights that's happening with their brand or with other people's brand? Maybe Guohong first.
Okay. I would say that the general feel that I'm getting is that less than 50%. There isn't actually much public education and public knowledge about this. And more importantly is that they are thinking that, hey, these are not important to me at all. My focus now is to actually spend time having headaches over how do I go digital, how do I go online. So
and
maybe
make it sales, isn't it? A lot of SMEs only focus on the sales.
Yes, and even how do I even market this thing online? So there was actually a lot of problems that they are facing already by going digital. So there isn't much of this knowledge. Of course, there are programs right now in the public market that are able to take it up. But if you compare that against like how do I market my first e-commerce website, I think they would rather spend money on those courses for now. So not enough in my opinion.
Yeah, we need to raise this issue, won't we? Because this will protect the businesses of the SMEs. Moni, how about you? How are SMEs in Cambodia aware about IPR? Because property right, intellectual property right, is something that we should all start thinking about, and not just thinking about it, but actually do some action about it and protect our IPR.
Yes, Vina. So actually, we have IPO in Cambodia as well. And most significantly, if we talk about the Facebook marketing, we could see that in different business, they couldn't have the same name for their business. So they have the copyright issue with their name. Also, they can also register their logo. For example, if Bomnong do some logo branding for them, they can use those branding guidelines in order to register their logo with the ministry. So that once the Ministry of Commerce and they can get the taxation being confirmed so that they will have the copyright in order to use their own logo. And other company cannot copy that logo or doing anything like them, like the same exact logo, the same name as them, so that it will contradict to the law as well.
I'm excited about the way we talk about things is very international flavor with the ASEAN spirits. But I'm interested at how are the SMEs you're helping, how interested are they to go into regional market? What kind of SMEs are more concentrating into the local Singapore or Cambodia market, and which ones and what kind of entrepreneurs who are actually start to peek into, hey, there's a bigger market next door, maybe from Singapore to Malaysia or Singapore to just across the ocean to Batam, Indonesia, for example. How are the SME clients you're doing, do they have constraint or do they have interest into pursuing their business to grow in the regional market? Guo Hong, how about you?
Sure. I think this is a very good question. First of all, let's understand our region. Okay, our region is very heterogeneous. Okay, we got Thailand that's using Thai baht, we got Malaysia that's using ringgit, we got Singapore that's using Singapore dollars, and much more for many other countries within ASEAN. So first of all, this also meant that there's multiple languages, there's actually multiple currency, there's actually multiple laws that they need to follow. And this is something that while they think that's very important and they want to actually capture a market out of Singapore, most SMEs actually lack this knowledge. They were like, okay, now how do I convert this thing, and how do I receive money in these various currencies? So they remain very interested. For most businesses, if the items are easily shippable, they're not very heavy, they are not really food, okay, they are usually not so concerned about these items. Their bigger concern is that, oh, how do I market in those regions? So it will depend on what type of industries they are, but I would say that a lot of companies in Singapore remain very interested in actually going regional. Very, very interested.
Thank you, Guo Hong. Moni, how about you? Are the SMEs clients you're working with work mainly in the local context, or any of them are interested to start going into the regional market?
Yes, Rina, thank you. So actually it depends on the industry, like Go Hong has already mentioned. So for example, if they focus on the restaurant or other small businesses, they will just do it in the country itself. However, if they are working on the agricultural sectors or some fertilizers, they would also go through the region as well. And there are some companies like the companies that they could produce rice and they can sell those rice as agricultural products to the other nations.
Okay, we have questions from the audience right now. So here we go. It's from Fauzi Saeed. Do let me know who will be interested to answer this, because I don't know who should be answering this. Maybe Bhatia, but also maybe Guo Hong. Let's see. Here's Fauzi's question. Should government and national bodies play a greater role in further developing the digital ecosystem? For example, subsidies to infrastructure. Or maybe if I rephrase the question, what kind of role your local government is supporting with the SMEs digitalization? Bahtiar, you want to start first, commenting on that question?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much for the question. So from the perspective of a regional project like Arise Plus IPR, I think we definitely see the great importance of regional and local policymaking. Oftentimes, a lot of these, when we have developments in, for example, the IP law, and as IP and businesses are both always evolving, so governments definitely have to keep up with this and create appropriate infrastructure, appropriate guidelines in order to keep up with this, and so that businesses can thrive. If we're to take the IP example for one, I could use the example of something that we have in Malaysia, for example. So Malaysia has set up a platform, an online platform, where companies can sell their IP. So, for example, if they're not looking to produce the products themselves, or if they have some proprietary technology that they would like to license out or enter into a joint venture with other companies for, they could display their inventions on this particular platform and have other people come set up meetings with them, look to purchase this technology and enter into joint ventures with them. So that's one example of a very successful case in ASEAN, where a government has put the appropriate infrastructure in order for the SMEs to grow, to get them a new business channel as well. So I think definitely policy making from the government plays a very important role in all of this.
Thank you, Bhatia. I think Guang has some experience with how the Singapore government is supporting a lot of SMEs into going digital.
I would say that actually even pre-COVID pandemic seasons, Singapore government is actually has been supporting a lot of companies to really go digital. So there are programs in the market right now, for example, the PSG program, the Productivity Solution Grant program, whereby they allow businesses to be able to easily and quickly take out solutions, productivity increasing solutions to actually support the companies to go digital, to go online, be it whether through machineries, infrastructure support, or be it through maybe software support. There are existing programs right there in the market where companies can easily subscribe to, and they're able to actually get 70-80% of the support through these pre-approved vendors. So what happened right now is that in Singapore, pre-COVID and even during COVID pandemic season, the support from the government has been very, very high and very, very at a very good level, I would say. That actually a lot of companies decided that, hey, since the company is co-sharing my risk here, I don't mind actually going on board these programs to go online. So at this moment, for Singapore, the involvement from the government is really very high.
And I hope the rest of the region also follow through, because any support right now is very important to allow everybody to survive together throughout this pandemic. It's been a long period of staying at home. I'm starting to be anxious to just stay in this box. This is where I go right now. If it's not pandemic, I'm sure we can all invite all of you to Jakarta, and we have this show live, and I'll take you out for satay or something. Next question. I think Bahtiar could answer this one. I think some of your answers before already answered some of it, but I don't mind you repeating what you're doing at Arise IPR. Here we go. How do you think the ASEAN and EU community cooperation can help support the SMEs and strengthen the digitization of the SMEs? Your thoughts, Bahtiar.
Okay. Thank you very much for the question, and I can definitely speak on behalf of the Rise Plus IPR project and what we do. So maybe just to give a 30-second summary of what it is that we actually do. So in short, we're an EU-funded project that attempts to improve the IP infrastructure within ASEAN. And so a lot of this, a lot of our work has to do with helping SMEs and producers throughout the region on how they could perhaps expand their reach, improve their product and scalability, and also, of course, how IP protection could help to do this. So I think ASEAN EU community, sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Sorry, so I think that ASEAN EU community cooperation is definitely of great importance. I think if we're to take the examples of some products that we have in ASEAN, we have these things what are called geographical indications. So these are products that are attributed to locality. So to take the example of Cambodia, we have kampot pepper, which is a very specific pepper attributed to a region of Cambodia. And so geographic indications were the first framework for these were actually set up by the EU. And a lot of the examples that we have that are successful products, such as champagne, Parmesan cheese, these come from Europe. and to share the example of how they use IP and these types of protection to really increase the amount that they're selling their product for, how they successfully protected it and were able to expand overseas, is something that we've definitely been looking to implement within ASEAN and share with our SMEs and producers. And Compot Pepper is definitely one of the most famous examples of a regional product that we have in ASEAN that's also been able to follow in these footsteps of success.
That's fascinating. Here's a question that I don't need you guys to answer, but because somebody asked this question, I'm just going to read it out just for the fun of it. From Huang Le, should ASEAN have a common currency like the European Union? We're not going to answer that. We're just going to smile about it because I don't think we have the answer to that, but that would be something to ponder about. So here we go. I have a question. I think this would be my last question. The big shift to digital in the last 1.5 years has mainly been because of the pandemic. We've seen a lot of changes. But how do you think business landscape would be after the pandemic? So think about, I don't know, 1.5 years from now, maybe. I'm not saying the pandemic will be over that long, but you know, what happened in a year or two after the pandemic is over? What would the business landscape be like? Guo Hong, let me start with you.
Sure.
I'm asking you to be a clairvoyant here.
I mean, I would say that during the pandemic season, many businesses in Singapore has taken in support grants and even the steps to actually transform, to improve, and to adopt new business models, basically. Going online, or be whether they need to scan the temperature before you can enter the restaurants, that there are new things that they have to do, new steps that they have to take, and more importantly, new business model that potentially they have already tapped onto. So being online and being more digital, even from internal productivity solution, or be it whether it's going to be customer-facing e-commerce solution, this is going to be part of the new norm that they actually need to take to actually run a business. It might not be something whereby they are able to just to do offline retail alone. They would probably want to actually explore, and they probably have already explored during the pandemic season to have all these things. So I would say that this is definitely going to be a new norm that they are going to take.
Whenever there's problem, there's always opportunity, I would say. And that's what the pandemic is about, isn't it? Moni, what is your view about business landscape in Cambodia, especially for SMEs? What you have witnessed, the transformation throughout the 1.5 years. After the pandemic is over, how do you think it's going to change?
Okay, thanks, Vina. I would think that there will be 3 main shifts. For example, the first one would be the smart working solution. So after the pandemic, we might have like working remote working as well as working at the office. So it would be the combination of it. And the second one would be the combined marketing solution. So we will have both traditional marketing and social media marketing. And last but not least, it's also about smart learning and training. So for instance, like you have already known that there are several trainings that is conducted at the office. However, after the pandemic, I think there will be both physical and virtual training as well.
Thank you. And of course, we look forward to more traveling after the pandemic is over. No, that's just me talking. Bakhtiar, with the context of intellectual property rights, how do you see the landscape, business landscape after the pandemic, especially in the context of intellectual property rights?
Thank you very much. So I think just speaking from the experience of Arise Plus IPR, we've seen in our work with ASEAN government departments, producers, and ASEAN SMEs, the importance of adaptability and new norms. Taking the example of our project, we usually host numerous regional workshops, around 10 per year. And having to adapt all these workshops to take place virtually, we actually found some positives out of this. We found that we had a greater reach conducting workshops online. We found we could connect with individuals better to a certain extent. And also we found that we could conduct a workshop over 6 hours online that would usually take up to 2 full days to do in person. So after the pandemic, it would make no sense to just go back to our old ways, as we have found new ways to be more efficient. I think in general terms, the business landscape will be more in a hybrid mode with an increase in digital presence as well as some in-person presence. So for SMEs in ASEAN, I think it's definitely important to note that what are the trends that they have faced during the pandemic? I think Go Hong has mentioned temperature checking and all these things. They all give you a new route to different business sustainability and different opportunity to a business. So what can businesses take advantage of post-pandemic, and how can they capitalize on the new norm?
I think the key is to adapt whatever is ahead of us. To all of you SMEs out there, the only key for survival is to adapt and be more flexible about this. All right, that's the end of our session. But of course, before we go, we need to be very ASEAN by taking picture of the four of us. I'm just going to pretend that someone at the backstage will be taking our picture. So let's do this, guys. Go home, Bahtiar and Moni. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's take a picture. I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, and hopefully somebody will take a photo. Bahtiar, you need to lean a little bit to my left. Yeah, that way. So your head is not cut by the caption there. I'm very aware about visual. Let's go. 1, 2, 3. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much, all four of you. Bahtiar Bandai at Arise IPR, Lim Gohang from Singapore, and Rosetta Moni Seng from Cambodia. If you want to know more about IPR, you can visit Arise IPR's booth in the expo session and continue your discussion with Bahtiar. And you can also read their brochure and even have a little live Q&A at the booth. And you have more questions for Gohang and Moni, head on over to the chat section. They will be there for the next 30 minutes to answer your question via chat. And we will also invite you to visit the Voice of Youth booth. Don't forget to tag at EU in ASEAN on your social media channels and share your thoughts on today's session. Best photos and comments will be shared on at EU in ASEAN. Make sure you follow their channels and receive a surprise hamper from us. I already look at those hampers. They're pretty fancy. Thank you so much for joining us here. My name is Liquid. Thank you, everybody.